You bet. You bet. All right. So welcome to the MX Broadcasting Network, and this is lunch, or this is not lunch with Lumberman. That's tomorrow. This is this week in lumber. You can tell I'm behind a little bit with Greg Riley and Matt Beamer. We're having a good conversation. This is where people in the industry that want to be in the know come to learn from three industry experts what's going on in the business. And I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback over the last 4 months doing this, 5 months doing this. That it's really a great thing, and we want to. My vision is to keep this thing growing and put on some more shows. And the guests have been great, but let's talk about it, Matt. What a quick turnaround in futures we had today. You had a good comment that walking in this morning, everything seemed a little subdued, and all of a sudden you're selling stuff and the board's up.
Right. So just kind of the nature of our industry and how quickly things can change. And you've been through this before, the old whiplash effect. Greg's been through it many times. Anyone that's been in our industry for more than 5 or 10 years has experienced a day like today. But it's interesting that it's happening on the same day that we're actually broadcasting, right? Normally those two things don't line up. So it's pretty cool that it's happening real time as we're speaking. But we just had a $200 drop in the price of futures, and now we have like a $45 rebound, all in the span of about an hour, right? So it's I find that fascinating and interesting, and I'll be really curious to see where it leads us, to tell you the truth, because there's a lot of moving parts in our business right now. Not all of them are good.
Yeah, what do you mean by that, Matt? Not all of them are good.
Well, you have consumer confidence is low, right? You have a political sea change, which started to happen last night in terms of the way people are starting to vote people out of office because they don't like what they're seeing from the existing leadership. You have, some actual economic warning signs with our ports not being able to operate efficiently and accurately. We have as Brian said a couple weeks ago, we've got a lot of money floating around in the system right now that's created inflation that we're all dealing with as a nation. So these are things that can cause problems for lumber, right? And eventually, if you're going to cool down the inflationary aspects of our economy, you're going to have to raise interest rates, which doesn't necessarily bode well for housing, right?
Yeah, yeah. But by the way, too, cool Zillow article you sent me yesterday. I kind of read that in the train on the way home. How they're, all of a sudden you would think that would be the one company doing so well in this industry, and they basically are chopping off like 2,000 workers now because they're buying and selling houses. Part of the business didn't work, right?
Yeah, I don't really understand. I guess that was somebody's idea that they were going to make a lot of money real quick, but no, it's and
Well, I mean, I think it
you
just
guys have talked about it.
Yeah. What's
Go ahead, Greg.
Greg?
well, I mean, I think for our listeners, Zillow had a house flipping business where they would buy houses and they would, Christina and Tariqum, and then flip them. They ran into a bunch of problems. One was their algorithm was overbidding for properties, and then they couldn't get the houses fixed up in a cost-effective manner because of all the supply chain issues that we've all had to deal with. So they pulled the plug on it. And I think the stat was, they're selling $2.8 billion worth of houses, and at like 90% of what they paid for them. So they're moving on. So, but I'll kind of pivot real quick from what Matt was saying, and when I look at the market from a 30,000 feet, I go, okay, so we ran up to unprecedented numbers in the second quarter, $1,700, which slowed home center business, slowed multifamily business, and probably slowed some discretionary new home building. In 13 weeks, we fell 80% in price. We fell 80%. And then in the last, 9 weeks, I think, I'm going to say we had an average 50% increase in price. volatility is here to stay. So the market moving up $40 or $50 in a couple of days is like, that's a rounding error to the volatility that we've had to deal with. That having been said, my feeling is, along with Matt, clearly the markets had rolled over in the last week or so, and we're seeing some pretty sharp discounts in the cash market of $50 to $100 a thousand under the print numbers. Now, how much of that lumber is cleaned up, in the last 6 hours? That's kind of the we'll wait to see. The biggest dynamic that I see affecting the market right this minute is mills want to sell everything they can ship in front of the potential proposed impending increase in tax. We're talking spruce right now.
Right.
So there's going to be an incentive to make sure to get everything you can ship between now and I'm saying the end of November. And then the question is, what are we going to do after that? What happens? I just want to say one thing, Matt. Let's go, Brandon.
You're not the only one saying that.
I renamed my dog Brandon. So when we take him out every night, we do, hey, let's go, Brandon.
Oh my gosh!
I think
so funny.
You've probably just been erased by the world now.
Yeah, no, you're on the list somewhere, I'm sure.
I had to.
No, I know you did. And you're in the heart of it, buddy. You are in Chicago, right? I mean, that'd be like I live in Portland. I mean, we are where we are. But interesting to note that Seattle last night voted in a Republican city attorney. I can't remember the last time Seattle voted a Republican anything. So it's just interesting. I'm not going to talk about politics anymore than that.
Let's go back to, I want to say what Greg was saying about pricing. So Matt, where is 2x4 Western spruce right now?
600 to 620, I guess, is what the mills are getting. Some of the mills that tried to get 650 and higher, they failed at that. That didn't work, and that might work again, but they needed to sell a little bit more volume in that 600 to 620 range to really force the price up, and they never did.
What do you say low trade was in the last 24, 48 hours?
Oh, I'm talking about our mill. I can't speak for every other Canadian mill out there, or basis trader. I mean, if you start bringing in wholesale wood into the equation, you could.
No, I'm talking about Western spruce. I mean, I've heard that low trade was 550 yesterday.
It would, honestly, none of that would surprise me, because the mills in the last 5-6 trading days have definitely opened up their ears and their books and said, hey, we were hoping to get this. We can ship it right away. That was the one thing that was sort of discouraging, was allegedly these 3-week order files they had all of a sudden disappeared into 1-week order files. And you're like,
Matt, time out, Matt. I know you and I have been in the business for a long time. Really? Like, you're surprised when mill order files disappear? Seriously.
In this case, I am a little bit, because it has actually. I haven't been getting early shipments from my sawmills. I've been getting late shipments from my sawmills. So, yes, I was a little surprised.
All kidding aside, I always feel the same way, Matt. Is like, I'm always like shocked, just because it seems so like makes no sense to me. How did you let that happen? Right? It's more, how did you let that happen than anything.
I think, when the market goes up, like it's gone up $200 in 2 months, okay? Then as you get towards the end of that cycle, mills tend to get a little too cute with themselves, and they kind of hold on to some of the lumber that they really should be selling, and they think they're going to get more for it. They just figure, hey, if I sell it on Thursday instead of Monday, I'll get paid a little bit more. And then that backfires on them when we come to a halt, right? Well, we came to a halt. The volume of POs really started to trickle down about a week and a half ago. And then over the last week, some mills like, hey, we can load these tomorrow, make an offer. So I'll tell you, our low trade was 600 mil. Okay, that was, and we were up there. We were one of the mills up around 650, 660. We have some pretty nice tallies with lots of 18s and 20s on them that have extra value. So we get paid a little bit more for those tallies, but 550 to 600, that doesn't surprise me a bit. It's still really good revenue. I mean, historically speaking, wouldn't you love to own a sawmill and sell lumber at 550 to 600 all year long?
No, that's break.
I don't know.
That's
ahead,
break even. That's break even cost, isn't it?
I'd take it right now if I was the Hampton family, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that would love to have a whole year's worth of lumber sold at $600.
So, question for you, Greg. So you live in the Eastern world a lot. 104 and 5/8 print. What was print at, and what was the low trade so far?
Stand by. Print today was 640 Boston, 645 Great Lakes. Low trade was under 600. And I think it's close. The market's close to 600 right now. I mean, to Matt's point, from low trade yesterday to this morning was about a $40 or $50 spread. Yesterday in that price discovery, those trades, and we've bounced $40. And to Matt's point, the question now is, can we hold these numbers and move higher, or is this part of a beginning of a bottoming process that's going to take longer? I mean, honestly, futures fell $200 over the last 2 weeks. Cash just fell $30 in the last week. Is this a correction in what's going to be a further rally, or is this the beginning of a bottoming process, or is this, is this a dead cat bounce?
Right, or a head fake, yeah.
Right. I mean, and I sit before you and say, I don't have a strong opinion about which one of those it is just yet.
I think we can figure it out.
But I hope to get that opinion.
I think we can figure it out fairly quickly, Greg. We have to survey in an honest fashion. You got to figure out how much inventory is sitting out there in a secondary's hands, whether that's a distributor or a wholesaler or a basis trader or a port, okay, or an importer, or even at a sawmill. So how much inventory is on the ground and liquid that can be sold within a 2 to 3 week window and ship, right? That's what I'd like to know. I can speak for myself. I don't have very much inventory left. I sold most of my inventory in the last 2 months. I haven't been replacing at these new higher levels because I just don't want to pay $200 $1,000 higher. I just don't think that's a good decision for November, December timeframe. I might be forced to, if this market really is going to go back up to 800 or something like that, then 600 will look like a value, but I'm not convinced of that yet. And the reason I'm not convinced of that is because I suspect there's a lot more lumber out there than people realize. I do. I think there's still a lot of $1,500 lumber that somebody sloughed away in a corner, and they're hoping to God that they'll get out of it in the fourth quarter with a minor flesh wound. And I think that lumber needs to get sold before it rots. And I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to get involved in that tug of war that I think is out there. That's coming.
So Kirk just said, Miller said it's a knee-jerk buying due to the BC harvest deferral announcement. I didn't hear about that, but
I have an article here. I'll forward it to you. But there was a Kofi or somebody came out yesterday and was talking about the BC industry is going to lose 18,000 jobs and 15 sawmills if the BC government goes along with this forest deferral practices that they're discussing or that they're going to vote on. So it's basically like the spotted owl for British Columbia, right? It's just a new disruption in timber harvesting.
I mean, my big unknown is I think there's a lot of people that are looking at the market and, hey, there's a potential increase in the tax coming at the end of the month, beginning of December. And my question is, number one, it doesn't make any sense given the status of the industry as a whole. But number two, after seeing Joe, defer on steel tariffs while he was in Europe, how much pressure is there lobbying right now, to not go forward, and is that going to have any impact, right? And I guess that would be a surprise to the industry, positive surprise, but it would be a surprise. In addition to that, I can't imagine that. What is there now in the collected tax in the collected duty column? $7 billion, I think, something like that.
That could be, Greg.
It's we're starting to get up where there's a number where people might want to cut a deal, and given that BC is so limited in terms of what they're going to be able to produce, and that all of those mills have effectively diversified into the southern U.S.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And so James Zirk, okay, James, thanks. And Neil said some truth in Kirk's comment. James said, if you read the article, 75% of the old growth they're talking about in the article is already protected. Right.
Yeah.
So to me, these stories that come out kind of float out at the perfect time, don't they? It seems like.
Well, hey, I have a question for you, Ashley. You have a platform that shows listings. Is the number of listings that for sale over the last couple of weeks increased a little bit for you guys, and the prices? Have you seen the prices go down in the asking?
So
prices?
Matt, yeah, it's a great question, and so this is like me giving a shameless promotion without me directly bringing it up. We have the most listings that we've had on the platform today. There's 370 listed right now. That's 150 more than yesterday. And this is new people selling, mills selling, but also people that normally don't sell that are usually buyers selling. So to your point, Matt, and they're lower numbers on some stuff. So, but I also like to think that I'm doing one hell of a job as a chief revenue officer, getting more people on too.
Let's just go we'll go with that.
But to Matt,
I think there's some insight to be read into that right there. Honestly, I mean, I'm reading the tea leaves in a way that tells me that there's a reason that there's 370 trucks, and that it is I don't think that's a fluke. I think there's a reason for it.
Yeah, no, we're showing up so we're having people, but today was like all of a sudden in the last 3 or 4 days, I saw it go boom, right? Like this on listings, and unique people. So yeah, that's into one of the things that I am seeing.
Okay, Matt. So I've formed my opinion. The market's going to the high 400s.
Honestly, Greg, I don't necessarily disagree. I'm maybe not as bearish as you are. I was more thinking in the low 500s was kind of what I was.
That's a good range, 475 to 525.
Hey, we're all just professional guessers, really. But I mean, my gut feeling and my intuition tells me that there's some room to the downside here, partly because of time of year, partly because of market makeup. But I'm not negative on the market at all. I think the market's actually fairly healthy, and I think we're in a good setup for the first quarter.
Well,
I'm really positive about the future.
Let's see over in the comments if anybody says, where will the 2x4 Western spruce market be? What time frame, Greg? What are you saying? When it'll be in 3 months or 2 months?
No, I'm talking about the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, by the end of the month.
So by the end of the month, what will the low trade price be in 2x4 Western mill, with it being right now around 600, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing 500, 510 for cash.
Yeah, I'm saying
I don't know if futures will get that low. I was thinking like 530, 520.
I've like November. I mean, I just look at November. I think if that got to a big premium, we might have gotten a little more mill hedging because it made sense when you're talking. Hey, you can get almost $700 plus for November lumber. That's right. That's pretty good. And Matt, the only thing I'd say is your inventory is lower. I actually have a little bit more wood because I had so much tied up in basis. I'm in the process of liquidating that right now, but
how's that going? Is it going in an orderly fashion for you? Because I assumed it would.
Yeah, it's been very steady. I mean, there's pockets and there's some things that I'm trying to make decisions about that, hey, I like this item a little more than something else, and or et cetera. So.
Ashley, you've been through a lot of these, fourth quarter markets over your career. What's your intuitions telling you about the market makeup and where we're going?
Volatility, man. I mean, look, I have no idea. I think that I think probably 500 could be the low trade price over the next 3 weeks. But Tim Hansen just made a comment. You guys have been bearish on the market since I've started paying attention.
I guess he just started paying attention like 2 weeks ago. Because Greg called it in August. He's like, "We're at the bottom, right?" You know, and then sure enough, we went up. And I don't know. I mean, I try to be fair-minded about this because I've said this before on this show, but it's true. I'm at any given time throughout the year, I'm both long and short. I'm usually never 100% one or the other.
I like to think of myself as a fully invested bear.
Right. I mean, I'm only bearish in the short term, not in the long term. I mean, I think in the long term, lumber is like I've told my guys. All right, here I'll just repeat this publicly. But I'm telling you, if we have inflation in this country, which we do, right? I'm not making this up. We do have inflation in this country. That means necessarily anything produced on this continent that's already here, because of the port problems we're having, is worth more money. Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Okay. So that doesn't make me bearish on the future of lumber in the long run. It actually is the opposite. I'm more bullish than that. I'm just not ready to go invest in $600 lumber on November 3rd or November 4th, right?
Matt,
I mean, that's my point.
And Matt, I'll sum up. I know Greg's got a hard stop at 12:30. I'll sum up kind of my answer. I've had two really smart people in my life tell me this so far. One of them may or may not be on this call. Both of them may be on this call. Our industry, when you take a poll and you actually show people, are all skewed to being bullish.
Right.
All the time. Everybody on this call, everybody that leaves comments are all skewed to this thing's going higher. Look at this news story. This is going higher. The real people that make money in these markets all the time are the ones that can also make it on the way down.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do because it takes a lot of metal to do it. And it takes a lot of I should say, skill, being invested in your idea and why. But markets do go down for reasons. They don't always go up. And that's a fact. And there's people in this business, I know a handful of them that can make money both ways and do it. And they don't always make it, but they make bets both ways. Markets don't always go up. And the reason is we a lot of times have worked for companies that are always long. And when you're always long, you're always selling. And you're always telling somebody they got to buy. So I'm just saying that's my opinion. And I think Matt, we've called it both ways. I think we've ridden at both sides of the fence. I've been on when you've been bullish and when I've been bullish and we've been bearish, right? But the fact is markets go up and down and the market doesn't care what people's emotions are or opinions or where they live or why things should go up all the time. They just do it, right?
Right.
Thanks, guys. So, hey, just a quick pitch before we go. Broadcasting live next week from the Noller Traders Market in Louisville, Kentucky. I hope, some of our viewers are there. Please, we'll send out a notice as to where we'll be broadcasting by. We'd love to have some people come by and live comment.
I can only imagine the live comments that we'll have.
But I'm real excited to have an in-person industry get together. I know, Ash, you've been out to a few of them lately and have had really, really positive response. I think this will be a fascinating time for the industry to get together.
Greg, real quick plug before we go. I have been to BCMC. We had a live meeting with a group of people from Chicago in a conference room yesterday. We're going and seeing people. There is nothing better than getting out of your house and going and seeing human beings face to face in an office and everything. And I really think that America should push that forward and get everybody back to work.
All right, let's go, Brandon. See you guys.
See ya. Later.